The music hall was buzzing with quiet anticipation. Inside the grand room, the air felt heavy with the weight of talent and expectation. The elite violinist, known across the country for his flawless performances and sharp, demanding personality, was preparing for a rehearsal that promised to be unlike any other. The chairs were neatly lined, the polished wood floor gleamed under the bright lights, and the audience seats were slowly filling with musicians, critics, and a few lucky guests. Everyone knew that this was not just any practice session. It was an opportunity to witness something extraordinary. Among the guests, there was a woman sitting quietly in the corner. She was dressed plainly, her clothes simple and her appearance unassuming. No one had paid much attention to her when she entered, and she had found a small chair at the edge of the room. Her eyes were soft but alert, scanning the room with quiet curiosity. She did not speak loudly or demand attention. She simply watched, letting the sounds of tuning instruments and murmured conversations wash over her. To most people, she seemed like she did not belong here, like she was out of place in a world of polished performers and critical judges. The elite violinist began to play, his bow gliding across the strings with precision and elegance. The music was complex, demanding, and full of subtle emotion. Everyone in the room felt the power of his skill, the kind of talent that could leave people in awe and, at the same time, slightly intimidated. As he played, his sharp eyes scanned the room, noticing the posture of each musician, the tension in their shoulders, and the slightest tremor of uncertainty. He was a perfectionist, and he expected the same from anyone who dared to perform in front of him. Then, something unexpected caught his attention. It was the woman in the corner, sitting quietly, her fingers nervously brushing the edge of her chair. There was a calmness about her, almost invisible, but it intrigued him. For a moment, he paused mid-note, letting a single tone hang in the air. The room fell silent for a beat longer than usual, and all eyes, even those of seasoned musicians, turned toward her. Curiosity mixed with a hint of mischief. The violinist was known for testing people, for pushing them beyond what they thought they could do. He walked slowly toward her, the echo of his shoes on the polished floor announcing his presence. When he reached her, he looked down, his gaze sharp yet questioning. "Can you play?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made the words feel like a challenge rather than a question. The woman's fingers hovered above the keys, her eyes steady despite the weight of hundreds of watching eyes on her. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the violinist tuning his instrument in the corner, his gaze sharp and calculating. She had been nervous at first, unsure of her abilities in such a public space, but now a quiet determination had settled over her. Each note she was about to play would not just be a sound, it would be a statement. She had been underestimated, dismissed because of her simple appearance and quiet demeanor, but she was ready to show the truth. She began with a soft, tentative melody, just enough to test the piano and ease herself into the complex piece. Her fingers moved slowly, yet with an underlying confidence that suggested deep familiarity. The violinist watched intently, his previous assumptions beginning to waver. He had expected mistakes, hesitations, or even a refusal, yet the woman seemed poised, almost as if she belonged here, as if the piano was a natural extension of herself. The room's energy shifted. The audience leaned forward, captivated by the quiet intensity she exuded. The murmurs and whispers of doubt faded as they watched her navigate the first intricate passage with precision. Her hands moved in a delicate dance, pressing each key with care, yet producing a sound that was strong, clear, and purposeful. It was as if she were telling a story through her fingers, one that demanded attention and respect. She took a deep breath and continued, moving into a section that was far more difficult than what she had already played. The notes were faster, more complicated, requiring coordination, speed, and precision that would challenge even experienced pianists. The violinist's eyes widened slightly, and a flicker of disbelief crossed his face. This woman, who had seemed so ordinary and simple at first glance, was performing a section that many professionals would struggle with. Each note was deliberate, yet flowed naturally into the next, creating a melody that was both beautiful and intricate. The audience could feel the tension in every movement of her hands. Every rise and fall of the melody, every sudden shift in tempo, carried a sense of emotional depth that went beyond technical skill. It was as if the woman were not just playing notes but breathing life into the music, shaping it with her soul rather than merely her hands. The violinist, for the first time, felt unsure. He had always believed that skill could be judged by appearance, by confidence, by the way someone carried themselves. Yet here was a woman who challenged every preconceived notion he held about talent and capability. Her fingers flew across the keys, maintaining control over the complex piece with a finesse that drew gasps from the audience. The subtle transitions between sections, the delicate yet powerful chords, the ability to convey emotion through dynamics. All of it came together in a way that felt effortless. She did not rush. She did not falter. Instead, she commanded the piano, and the room began to feel the weight of her genius. The violinist took a step closer, his usual confidence replaced with curiosity and awe. He could not believe what he was witnessing. He had expected a brief performance that would end in awkwardness or failure, but instead he was seeing something rare, something extraordinary. He leaned against the wall, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on her hands as they danced across the keys. The room had become a stage for her, and she was the undisputed center of attention. Her body swayed slightly with the rhythm, not out of showmanship, but because the music seemed to flow through her, commanding her movements. The audience, once skeptical, was now completely silent, hanging on every note. Even the critics, known for their harsh judgments, were unable to find fault. Each passage was executed perfectly, with clarity and emotion intertwined. She played not just to perform but to express, to communicate something beyond words, something deeply human. At one point, the violinist thought she might falter, a particularly challenging passage approaching with a series of rapid notes that required extraordinary dexterity. He held his breath. The room seemed to slow, every eye on the woman as she approached the part that would test her most. But instead of hesitation, she leaned into the challenge, her fingers moving faster yet remaining precise, each note striking with perfect timing. It was a display of control and artistry that left everyone, including the violinist, momentarily speechless. The music swelled, reaching a crescendo that filled the hall with power and beauty. Her hands moved with a fluidity that seemed almost supernatural, and yet it was grounded in practice, in understanding, in the genius that lay hidden behind her quiet appearance. The audience felt the emotional journey of the piece, the highs and lows, the tension and release, as if she were guiding them through her world with each touch of the keys. As the section ended, she paused briefly, her fingers resting gently on the keys. The room was completely still for a heartbeat longer than usual, absorbing the impact of what had just occurred. The violinist exhaled softly, a mixture of relief and amazement crossing his face. He had underestimated her, assumed her simplicity equaled a lack of skill, and yet here she was, shattering every expectation. She glanced toward him, not defiantly, but with quiet confidence. Her eyes held a calm strength, a message that she did not need validation from him or anyone else. She knew her abilities, and she was letting her music speak for itself. The violinist, for the first time in a long while, felt a sense of humility. He had faced many talented musicians, but something about this woman's performance stirred a respect he had not anticipated. The audience, sensing the intensity of the moment, began to whisper in admiration. Some nodded to each other, unable to hide their astonishment. The critics jotted down notes rapidly, trying to capture the unexpected brilliance they were witnessing. Musicians in the room exchanged glances, their skepticism replaced with awe and inspiration. The simple woman at the piano had commanded their attention in a way that went beyond skill. It was her presence, her emotion, her authenticity that made the performance unforgettable. She continued to play, moving seamlessly into another section, her confidence growing with each passing measure. The difficult parts were no longer intimidating. They were opportunities for her to shine. Each note was a declaration of her talent, her resilience, and her refusal to be underestimated. The violinist, still standing nearby, realized that he had not just underestimated a musician. He had underestimated a person who carried extraordinary genius within a modest exterior. Time seemed to blur as she played, the room completely absorbed in her performance. The music told a story that words could not convey. A story of challenge, courage, and the beauty of hidden talent. She was no longer just a simple woman. She had become a force of inspiration, a reminder that greatness often comes from the most unexpected places. As she finished the second part of the piece, she let the final note linger, delicate and haunting. The audience remained silent for a moment, as if afraid to break the spell. Then, slowly, a ripple of applause began, growing louder and stronger. The violinist clapped too, genuinely, his earlier pride replaced with admiration and respect. He had been wrong to doubt her. She had proven herself in a way that words could not describe. The woman rose from the piano, her expression calm yet proud. She had faced the challenge, met it head-on, and revealed a talent that no one in the room could ignore. The music hall, once filled with doubt and expectation, was now alive with acknowledgement and respect. The elite violinist, humbled and thoughtful, realized that he had witnessed something rare and extraordinary. This was only the beginning, and everyone in the room knew that they had just experienced the first glimpse of a remarkable story unfolding. The audience was still catching their breath from the second part of her performance when she continued into the next section of the piece. There was a quiet intensity in the room, a shared anticipation that seemed to hang in the air. Every person present had been captivated by her skill so far, but no one could have predicted what was coming next. The notes were complex, fast, and intricate, demanding both precision and emotion. Many seasoned musicians would have paused or stumbled, but she approached it with calm determination. Her fingers moved quickly yet gracefully, flying across the keys with a precision that seemed almost impossible. Each note was perfectly timed, each chord executed with care, yet the music flowed as if it were alive. The violinist, who had spent years training and performing at the highest level, watched with wide eyes. He had never seen anyone, let alone someone who appeared so ordinary, handle a piece like this with such control and emotion. The woman's eyes were focused, but her body moved subtly with the rhythm, her head slightly tilting with each rise and fall of the melody. There was a sense of storytelling in her playing, as if she were communicating with the audience not just through sound, but through feeling. The violinist felt a twinge of surprise. He had assumed she would struggle, but instead she was commanding the piano like a seasoned professional. As the piece became even more demanding, the audience could feel the tension. Her hands moved in what seemed like a blur, yet there was no confusion, no misstep. Every note was deliberate, every passage executed with perfect clarity. Some of the musicians in the room exchanged glances, astonished at what they were witnessing. They had seen talent before, but this was different. This was a performance that radiated not just skill, but genius. The violinist's expression changed from surprise to deep respect. He had challenged her, expecting to assert his dominance and expose her lack of skill. But instead, he was confronted with a remarkable display of talent. His hands, which had once held the violin with confidence, now clenched slightly at his sides. He realized that he had underestimated her completely. The woman in front of him was not just competent. She was extraordinary. Her music filled the hall with a richness and depth that seemed to touch everyone present. The audience sat forward in their seats, silent but fully engaged. Even the critics, who were quick to judge and slow to praise, were unable to find fault. There was something authentic and human in her playing, a vulnerability wrapped in incredible technical skill. Each note seemed to carry a story, each chord a feeling, and everyone in the room felt drawn into her performance. The piece moved into a particularly challenging section, with rapid scales and complex arpeggios. The woman's fingers danced across the keys, hitting every note with clarity and precision. The violinist could hardly believe what he was seeing. He had performed similar pieces countless times, yet her execution was flawless, her control absolute. He realized that he had been too quick to judge, relying on appearances rather than observing true capability. The music seemed to intensify with every measure. The woman's hands flew across the piano, yet she remained composed, her posture relaxed yet commanding. There was no hesitation, no sign of doubt. Her performance was captivating, drawing the audience into a world that only she seemed to fully understand. The energy in the room shifted, moving from curiosity and skepticism to admiration and awe. Some audience members whispered quietly to each other, barely able to contain their astonishment. The critics' pens moved furiously across their notes, trying to capture the brilliance unfolding before them. Even the musicians who had been watching for years, confident in their own abilities, felt a sense of humility. They had not expected to witness such a seamless combination of technical mastery and emotional expression from someone so quietly unassuming. The violinist, still standing a few steps away, began to feel a shift within himself. He had spent years mastering his craft, always seeking perfection, always judging others based on appearance and reputation. Now he was forced to confront the reality that he had been wrong. True talent could not be measured by looks, by demeanor, or by social standing. It revealed itself in action, and she had proven herself in the most undeniable way. Her fingers glided over the keys with a speed and accuracy that seemed almost unreal. She moved through the most complicated passages as if they were simple exercises, yet each note carried meaning and feeling. The audience could sense the emotion behind the performance, a mixture of determination, courage, and perhaps a hint of pride. She was no longer just playing music. She was telling a story of hidden potential finally being revealed. The hall seemed to hum with the energy of her performance. Every note was carefully measured, yet there was a natural flow that made the complexity of the piece seem effortless. The violinist felt a wave of realization wash over him. He had challenged her, expecting to demonstrate his superiority, but instead, she had transformed the moment into something extraordinary. He could feel the weight of his own assumptions lifting, replaced by respect and admiration. She approached the climax of the section, a series of rapid notes that would intimidate even the most experienced pianist. Her hands moved in perfect harmony, each note clear, each chord resonant. The audience could hardly keep up with the speed, yet they were mesmerized by the precision and artistry. The violinist took a step back, his posture stiff, his mind racing to process what he had just witnessed. He had never seen such mastery from someone so unassuming. The woman's expression remained calm, almost serene, as she navigated the most challenging moments of the piece. There was no sign of stress, no faltering, no hesitation. She was completely in control, guiding the music with her hands and her heart. The audience, once filled with doubt and expectation, was now captivated, unable to look away. Every note seemed to pull them deeper into the story she was telling, the journey she was leading them on. As the section drew to a close, the woman allowed the final note to linger, filling the room with a sense of completion and awe. There was a pause, a moment of silence, as everyone absorbed what they had just witnessed. The violinist's eyes met hers, and he felt a mixture of humility and amazement. He had underestimated her, and she had proven herself in a way that could not be ignored. The audience erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the hall. The woman rose from the piano, her posture relaxed, her expression calm yet proud. She had faced the most challenging part of the piece and had emerged victorious, revealing a level of skill and genius that left everyone in awe. The violinist, still processing the performance, stepped forward and clapped, his respect for her undeniable. In that moment, the room seemed to shift. The simple woman at the piano had transformed the space, turning doubt into admiration, skepticism into respect. She had revealed a talent that could not be measured by appearances, a genius that was hidden but now unmistakable. The violinist, humbled by the experience, realized that he had witnessed something rare and extraordinary. This was only the beginning, and the audience knew that they had just seen the first glimpse of a remarkable journey unfolding before their eyes. The woman had reached the heart of the piece, the section that demanded both technical skill and deep emotional understanding. The room was completely silent, every person leaning forward, holding their breath as she continued. Her hands moved with incredible precision, each note resonating with clarity and intention. The difficult sections, which had intimidated the most experienced musicians, now seemed effortless in her hands. Her fingers flew over the keys, executing rapid sequences and complicated chords with ease. It was as if the piano itself was an extension of her, responding instinctively to her touch. The audience watched in stunned silence. The initial curiosity had grown into full-blown astonishment. They had expected hesitation, mistakes, or at least some signs of struggle, but instead they saw mastery. Her playing was powerful yet delicate, commanding yet sensitive. Each chord, each scale, seemed to tell a story beyond the music itself. The violinist, who had been so sure of his assumptions, could not look away. His mind raced as he tried to reconcile the woman's simple appearance with the extraordinary talent he was witnessing. Her eyes remained focused on the keys, yet they held a quiet confidence. There was no arrogance, no need to impress. She simply played, allowing the music to flow naturally through her. Every note was intentional, yet every phrase felt alive, full of emotion and depth. The difficult passages that had once seemed impossible now unfolded seamlessly, leaving the audience mesmerized. Even the critics, who prided themselves on remaining impartial, were unable to hide their astonishment. The violinist stepped back slightly, his hands clasped in front of him. He had faced countless prodigies and talented musicians, yet this performance was unlike anything he had ever seen. There was a brilliance in her playing that could not be taught, a natural genius that shone through every measure. He realized that he had been wrong to underestimate her based on appearances. This was not just skill. This was pure, unfiltered talent. As she continued, the emotional intensity of the piece became more pronounced. The music swelled and receded, taking the audience on a journey of highs and lows. Her hands moved with incredible speed and precision, yet she never lost control. Every note carried meaning, and every chord seemed to speak directly to the hearts of those listening. The room felt alive with the power of her performance, as if the music itself was breathing alongside her. The difficult section reached its peak, with rapid sequences and challenging chords that would have daunted even the most seasoned pianist. The woman's fingers flew across the keys with ease, each note clear and resonant. The audience could barely comprehend the complexity of what they were hearing. It was technical mastery, but it was also something more. There was emotion, expression, and a sense of storytelling that went beyond the music itself. She was not just playing notes. She was communicating, connecting, and inspiring. The violinist felt a deep sense of respect and awe. He had challenged her, expecting to see hesitation and failure, but instead he had witnessed something extraordinary. He could see now that talent was not always visible at first glance. True genius could be hidden, quietly waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And in this moment, the woman had revealed hers fully. The music flowed seamlessly from one section to the next, each transition smooth yet filled with emotion. Her performance was a perfect balance of technical skill and expressive depth. She played not for recognition, not for applause, but because it was a part of her. The audience, sensing the authenticity of her performance, responded with growing admiration. Some had tears in their eyes, moved by the beauty and power of the music. The violinist, who had always prided himself on his own abilities, felt a humbling shift within him. He had come here expecting to assert his authority, to challenge someone who seemed ordinary, but now he was faced with a reality that he could not ignore. This woman was a genius, and he was witnessing her brilliance firsthand. His earlier smirk of superiority had vanished, replaced by a mixture of admiration, respect, and a touch of humility. As she approached the final measures of the piece, the tension in the room reached its peak. Her fingers moved with a speed and accuracy that seemed almost impossible, yet there was no sign of strain. Each chord resonated fully, each scale soared, and every note was perfectly placed. The music filled the hall, surrounding everyone present with its beauty and intensity. The audience sat in rapt attention, completely absorbed in the performance. The climax of the piece was breathtaking. The woman's hands moved with incredible coordination, executing the most challenging passages flawlessly. The room seemed to hold its breath, caught in the moment, unable to look away. The violinist felt a mixture of awe and disbelief. He had underestimated her, but now he could see clearly that he had been wrong. She was not just skilled. She was extraordinary, a true musical genius. As the final notes lingered in the air, the woman allowed them to fade naturally, holding them just long enough to leave an impression on everyone present. She lifted her hands from the keys, her posture calm and composed. The room remained silent for a heartbeat longer, as if no one could quite process what they had just witnessed. Then, slowly, a wave of applause began, growing louder and louder until it filled the hall with overwhelming admiration. The violinist stepped forward, clapping along with the audience, his expression a mixture of amazement and respect. He approached her, and for the first time he acknowledged her talent openly. There was no condescension, no challenge, only genuine recognition. She had proven herself beyond any doubt, revealing a level of skill and genius that could not be denied. The audience continued to applaud, some standing, some with tears in their eyes, all moved by the beauty and power of her performance. The critics, who had been skeptical at first, now scribbled notes of admiration, struggling to capture the brilliance they had witnessed. Musicians in the room exchanged glances, inspired by the performance and humbled by the display of talent. The woman at the piano smiled softly, her calm demeanor reflecting the quiet confidence that had carried her through the performance. She had faced a challenge that many would have found intimidating, and she had met it with grace, skill, and an undeniable genius. The violinist, standing nearby, felt a profound respect for her. He had been wrong to doubt her, and now he knew that talent could come from the most unexpected places. The room slowly began to settle, the applause fading into appreciative murmurs and whispered conversations. The energy in the hall was electric, filled with admiration and wonder. The woman had transformed the space, revealing a hidden brilliance that would be remembered by everyone present. The violinist, humbled and inspired, realized that he had witnessed something rare and extraordinary. She had not only played the difficult piece flawlessly, but she had also touched the hearts of everyone who had listened, leaving a lasting impression that would be difficult to forget. In that moment, it became clear to everyone that the simple woman at the piano was not just talented. She was a genius, and her performance had revealed a depth of skill, emotion, and artistry that few could ever hope to achieve. The violinist, who had once thought he held all the answers, now understood that true talent could not be judged by appearances alone. He had been wrong, and in being proven so, he had learned a lesson about humility, recognition, and the extraordinary potential hidden within the most unexpected individuals. The applause filled the music hall, echoing off the walls and ceilings, but for the woman at the piano, the noise felt distant. She remained seated for a moment, letting the last notes linger in the air and in the minds of everyone listening. Her breathing was steady, her hands resting lightly on the keys, and her calm demeanor suggested that she was used to this focus and control. Yet, despite her quiet exterior, there was a small spark of pride within her. She had faced a challenge that most would have found overwhelming and had proven herself beyond doubt. The violinist stepped forward, clapping earnestly, his expression a mixture of admiration and humility. He had come to the hall expecting to assert his authority, to test and perhaps embarrass someone he assumed would fail. Instead, he had been confronted with brilliance, talent that could not be measured by appearances or initial impressions. He approached the woman, bowing slightly in respect, acknowledging the extraordinary skill she had just displayed. "Your performance was incredible," he said, his voice carrying sincerity that left no room for doubt. "I have underestimated you, and I apologize for that. You have shown a genius that few ever achieve." The woman simply nodded, her smile modest. She had no need for excessive praise. She let the music speak for her. Yet, there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that her talent had been recognized, that the audience, the critics, and even the violinist himself could see her abilities clearly now. The audience continued to clap, some rising to their feet in ovation. Musicians who had been observing with skepticism were now leaning forward, inspired by what they had just witnessed. The critics, usually poised and reserved, were scribbling notes furiously, clearly impressed and eager to capture every detail of her performance. The atmosphere was electric, filled with admiration, respect, and a shared sense of awe. The violinist motioned for her to rise from the piano. She stood slowly, acknowledging the applause with a slight bow. Her presence was calm yet commanding, the kind of quiet authority that came from mastery and confidence. She had transformed the room, turning what was meant to be a simple challenge into a remarkable display of talent and artistry. As the audience continued to react, some began to whisper among themselves, discussing the incredible performance they had just witnessed. "I have never seen anyone play like that," one person murmured. "It was flawless, and yet so full of emotion. Truly remarkable." Others nodded in agreement. "And to think she looked so ordinary," someone else said. "You would never have guessed she had this level of skill." The violinist listened to these reactions, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He had been present to challenge her, to test her limits, but she had surpassed all expectations. His respect for her was profound, and he understood now that true talent could not be judged by appearances. It was revealed in action, in the courage to face challenges, and in the ability to express something deep and human through skill. He gestured for the audience to settle as he spoke again. "We have all just witnessed something extraordinary," he said. "This performance reminds us that talent is often hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Today we have seen genius in action, and it is a lesson for all of us to never underestimate anyone." The woman listened quietly, her expression calm. She did not seek recognition, yet she understood the impact of her performance. The audience had seen her in a new light, and the violinist had acknowledged her talent openly. It was a moment of validation, not for ego, but for the recognition of skill, effort, and the quiet brilliance she carried within herself. As people began to approach her, offering words of admiration and congratulations, she responded with modesty and grace. She thanked them quietly, appreciating their acknowledgement but not letting it distract from the deeper satisfaction she felt from having met the challenge on her own terms. Her talent had always been there, but now it was visible to everyone around her, and that visibility brought a sense of empowerment. The critics, still seated with pens moving across their notes, were clearly trying to capture the essence of what they had seen. They wrote of technical mastery, emotional depth, and the rare combination of precision and expressiveness. Even they could not deny the genius of her performance, and their reviews would reflect the awe and respect they had felt in that moment. Musicians who had been skeptical found themselves inspired. Some approached the piano, discussing her technique quietly among themselves, trying to understand how someone could combine such technical skill with emotional expression. They were not just impressed. They were motivated to improve, to strive for a level of mastery that seemed almost otherworldly. The violinist stayed near her, observing with a thoughtful expression. He had learned something important that day, not just about her talent, but about the nature of judgment and assumption. His experience and skill had taught him many things, but her performance had reminded him that brilliance often comes from unexpected places, and that assumptions based on appearance or demeanor could be dangerously misleading. The woman allowed herself a moment of reflection. She had faced an intense challenge and had emerged with her abilities fully recognized. She had not only proved her skill but had also changed the perceptions of those around her. The applause, the admiration, and the respect were all acknowledgments of something she had always known: that her talent was real, that it was powerful, and that it deserved to be seen. The audience gradually began to leave, but many lingered, talking quietly about the performance they had just witnessed. The violinist remained behind for a moment, offering her guidance and encouragement. He understood now that she had potential beyond what even she might have imagined, and he was eager to support her journey. In that space, the music hall seemed to hold a sense of possibility and hope. The woman's performance had shown everyone that greatness could come from anyone, regardless of how ordinary they might appear. She had revealed a hidden brilliance that inspired respect, admiration, and even humility in those who had underestimated her. The moment was transformative, not just for her, but for everyone who had witnessed it. As she finally left the piano and walked toward the exit, the violinist followed, still speaking softly. "Your talent is extraordinary," he said. "I hope you continue to share it. There is so much the world can learn from you." She smiled, understanding the meaning behind his words. The recognition was important, but it was not the reason she played. She played because it was a part of her, because the music was an extension of herself. Yet, knowing that her abilities were now appreciated and respected added a layer of fulfillment that she had not anticipated. The music hall emptied slowly, leaving behind the echoes of her performance and the impression of her genius. The violinist remained in thought, reflecting on the lesson he had learned. Never judge talent by appearances, and always be open to the extraordinary possibilities hidden within ordinary-looking individuals. The woman, meanwhile, walked away quietly, carrying with her the knowledge that she had faced a challenge, conquered it, and inspired everyone who had been fortunate enough to witness her brilliance. In the quiet aftermath, it was clear to everyone present that this performance would be remembered for years to come. She had not just played the difficult piano piece. She had made it unforgettable, revealing a depth of genius that left a lasting impact. The violinist, the musicians, the critics, and the audience had all been touched by her talent, and they would never underestimate someone again based on appearances alone. Days passed after the unforgettable performance, yet the impact of that moment lingered in the music hall and in the minds of everyone who had been present. News of the simple woman who had played the difficult piano piece with genius spread quickly through the music community. Musicians, critics, and even casual listeners could not stop talking about what they had witnessed. Articles praised her precision, her emotion, and the way she had turned a challenge into a revelation of talent. She had become a topic of admiration and curiosity, a name whispered with respect and wonder. The violinist who had first challenged her found himself reflecting often on that day. He had always prided himself on knowing talent when he saw it, yet he had been so wrong. She had taught him a lesson about humility and perception. He reached out to her, inviting her to work together on future performances. He was no longer a critic or a challenger. He had become a supporter, eager to see where her extraordinary abilities could take her. The woman's life began to change slowly but profoundly. Invitations to perform in concerts arrived, some from prestigious halls she had never imagined entering. Musicians she had admired from afar now approached her with interest, wanting to collaborate, learn, and share the stage. Yet she remained grounded, aware that her talent was not about fame or recognition. She played because it was a part of who she was, because music gave her a voice that words alone could never express. Her performances continued to captivate audiences. Each time she sat at the piano, people felt the intensity and emotion of her music. It was not just skill that drew them in. It was her ability to communicate through sound, to tell stories and convey feelings that touched hearts deeply. Those who had once doubted her could no longer question her talent. She had revealed a genius that was undeniable and enduring. The violinist watched her growth with pride and respect. He had been present at the moment her genius was first revealed, but now he saw how her talent continued to inspire everyone around her. He accompanied her in performances, sharing stages, and offering guidance when asked. Their partnership was not about hierarchy or competition. It was about mutual respect and the joy of creating beautiful music together. He learned as much from her as she learned from him, understanding that true artistry was a lifelong journey, and that every performance was an opportunity to grow. Audiences traveled from far and wide to witness her play. Critics wrote glowing reviews, praising not only her technical ability, but also her emotional depth. Musicians began to study her performances, trying to understand the subtle nuances of her technique, the way she infused every note with intention. She became a source of inspiration, proving that talent could emerge from the most unexpected places, and that brilliance was not always visible at first glance. Despite the attention, she remained humble. She did not seek the spotlight for its own sake. Instead, she focused on perfecting her craft, exploring new pieces, and finding new ways to express herself through music. Each performance was a personal journey, a dialogue between her and the audience, a chance to share something meaningful and human. She understood that her genius was not a tool for vanity. It was a gift meant to connect, inspire, and uplift. The violinist often reflected on the day he had first challenged her. What had begun as a test of skill had transformed into a lifelong lesson about perception, respect, and the nature of talent. He understood now that assumptions could blind even the most experienced eye, and that true genius often revealed itself in ways that were quiet, subtle, and powerful. Watching her perform reminded him that artistry was not about ego or appearances, but about dedication, expression, and the courage to face challenges. She also inspired other musicians. Young performers who struggled with self-doubt found courage in her story. They realized that even those who seemed ordinary could achieve greatness with focus, practice, and belief in their abilities. Teachers used her example in lessons, encouraging students to explore their own hidden potential. She became a symbol of perseverance and talent, showing that the most remarkable abilities could emerge quietly, waiting for the right moment to shine. The woman's life was not without challenges. Every performance carried pressure, every audience brought expectations. Yet she approached each opportunity with calm determination, knowing that her focus and preparation were what truly mattered. She had learned to trust her instincts, to let the music guide her, and to embrace the responsibility that came with extraordinary skill. Her journey was a balance of discipline, creativity, and humility, and she faced it with grace. Over time, her reputation grew beyond the music community. People from all walks of life heard stories of her talent, of the woman who had transformed a simple piano challenge into a display of genius. Her performances became events, gatherings where audiences came not just for entertainment, but to witness the beauty and power of human potential. She remained the same humble person, yet the world had begun to recognize the extraordinary within her. The violinist continued to support her, mentoring when needed, performing alongside her, and learning from her in return. Their collaboration became a story of mutual respect, a partnership that highlighted the importance of encouragement, guidance, and shared artistry. He often remarked that working with her reminded him why he had chosen a life in music: to connect, to challenge, and to be inspired. Her legacy grew with every performance, every audience touched, and every young musician inspired. She had shown that genius could exist in the most unexpected forms, and that talent was not measured by appearance or background, but by dedication, skill, and the courage to step forward. She had faced doubt, overcome challenge, and revealed a brilliance that would influence the world of music for years to come. In quiet moments, she reflected on how far she had come. From a simple observer in a corner of the music hall to a celebrated performer, her journey had been one of growth, discovery, and courage. She knew that her music was not just her own. It belonged to everyone who listened, everyone who felt its power and beauty. Her life had been transformed, but she remained true to herself, continuing to play with the same sincerity and focus that had first captured the hearts of the audience. The music hall where it all began remained a special place for her. She often returned to play, remembering the day her genius had been revealed and the lesson the violinist had learned about assumptions and respect. Each time she performed there, she felt the echoes of that first performance, a reminder that talent could be hidden, waiting for the right moment to shine. She had proven that the impossible was possible, and her story continued to inspire everyone who heard it. Her journey became more than a story of talent. It was a story of courage, humility, and the quiet power of genius. She had faced a challenge meant to test her, and in doing so, she had changed the perceptions of everyone around her. She had inspired respect, admiration, and a belief in the extraordinary potential that exists within each person. The violinist, the audience, the critics, and the musicians all carried the memory of that performance, a testament to the transformative power of skill, courage, and heart. As she continued her life in music, Performing in halls around the world, her impact grew. She nurtured young talent, encouraged those who doubted themselves, and reminded everyone that brilliance could be found where it was least expected. The simple woman who had once sat quietly in the corner of the music hall had become a symbol of hidden genius, a reminder that true talent reveals itself in time, often when least anticipated. Her story was not just about music, but about the human spirit, the courage to rise to challenges, and the enduring power of extraordinary skill combined with heart and humility.